Hello and welcome back to Factory Town Idle. It's been several more days since the last episode, and I've done quite a bit actually off camera, and to the point where we are very nearly at the point where we can unlock the next two biomes, desert and snow. I may make this kind of a two-part episode, kind of stitching two together, or two disparate segments together in order to show you the first part of those two biomes. Depending on how long this ends up being, or I might just wait until next week to show you those two biomes. But for now, I wanted to show you a couple of features that I've been using. One that I was nervous about using, and then kind of how some certain things kind of work together. So the first thing is the auto-rebalancing, the auto-rebalancing. And I have that turned on now in the harvesting, crafting, cultivation, and prospecting tabs on all, how many do I have? 5 cities. 5 towns, but I have it qualified on the crafting tab a little bit. And what this does, since I was nervous to use it previously, I wanted to experiment with it off camera, and then I wanted to show you how it worked on camera. So what it does is it tries to find the best way to fill up these progress bars for everything in that category. However, there's a couple of caveats. If you get to the point in a not a category, but a crafting building where you have no workers left or very few workers left, and you increase something that will affect, say, 2 things in that building, like for example, wood makes planks, planks makes refined planks. If whatever you increase elsewhere will require more refined planks, and it takes, and let's say we only have like 1 worker left here, if it takes more than that 1 worker to fulfill, sometimes it'll leave one of the items as a deficit in order to fill the other one, which is understandable, but you have to keep an eye on it. Also, if you increase something where it draws 2 things, and an example of that might be down here in maybe the machine shop or something. Let's say we increased, what uses those things? Oh, probably, yeah. If I increased in Industrial Knowledge Tome 2, which uses iron wheels and steam pipes, if I increase that enough to where I zeroed out the workers here, sometimes the iron wheels would get a bunch of workers, sometimes the steam pipes would get a bunch of workers, but they wouldn't necessarily be in balance with each other, because it kind of assigns the workers to one of them until it's good, and then to the other one, which is okay also if you only have a little bit of negative, of space to make up. If you have a lot, like if you've accidentally let the couple of bars deplete down to like half or even 0, then it will focus all the extra workers on one of them sometimes, or most of them on one of them sometimes, and then it will focus on making that item forsaking some of the others. So sometimes you have to get in here and rebalance it manually, which I've had to do a few times. But the automatic rebalance works well for a lot of situations, especially situations caused by recipes ticking up in level, making them faster, making them sometimes require more input materials. Also, as you're going back and forth with things like research or building crafting, it works out really well. But again, there's a qualification here. One thing, if you are building out storages, where you're adding in, and I've been doing this, I've gotten these all up to 10, but one of them, I'm going to show you what happens when I do this one, because this one's a fairly innocuous one, because we only have 6 things, I think, in here, but if I add another library, which I'm planning on doing here, all of those items, because this adds 1,000 storage per building for each one of these items, all of those items will ramp up in production immediately. And if we don't have enough capacity to produce them all at a ramped up level, the rebalance thing will sometimes rebalance them weirdly. So let's go ahead and do this, and we can kind of see what happens here with just these 5, plus the books are up above. But these 5, maybe papers in there too, I can't remember. You can see kind of rebalancing. Things are going up, things are going down. It's trying to assign the workers to accommodate everything we've changed. There's some out of balanceness here. We're definitely drawing more things as the ingredients for these items. But you can also see that it took the extra workers that I had here in the laboratory and completely reassigned them to in an imbalanced way. And part of that is that I actually need another laboratory, I think. So let's add one. But the other part of it is that it doesn't necessarily find the best balance. It finds the best way to make something. So we're going to see if we can rebalance this better. You can see how they shifted around again. You can see the workers, or the I don't know, whatever, the positions here, toggling back and forth. We settled out here. Now we're making the right amount of Industrial Knowledge Tome 3s. Looks like we're making a decent number of 2s, but not quite. Not quite. We're making actually too many 2s, which is pulling down our 1s, which we don't want to have happen, but it's happening anyway. And so what you can do is just do the subtraction thing here to kind of rebalance them a little bit, and maybe you can find the sweet spot where those will stay green, and so will these be green. And then that'll actually make the game a bit happier. And if you want, you can even rebalance them even more, or try to rebalance them even more by drawing this down. If you can find the sweet spot, sometimes you can do this. We're going to pull it down to about 10. Although, if you're full, which it looks like it is, I can actually turn this off. And it'll toggle that down to 7 and push this one way up, which is also what you don't want, because now it's overdrawing our study and pulling the general knowledge tomes down to 0 in order to make these as fast as possible. But as soon as we get enough of them, you can see it ticking down as this fills up at 11.7 there. That shoots way down to where it should be at 14, and then these can start making up. But we only have 40 slots here in the study, in the 8 studies we have, so they can't ramp up as fast as you might hope, although they're making 550 per second. So they're going to get there pretty fast. But they're also using a lot of books to make those, and then you'll see it kind of ramp down. You can see those numbers shifting, and then everything kind of stabilizes and gets kind of just levels off a bit, which is really nice that it levels it off and stabilizes. But it gets weird whenever you do something like that. And now it's going to get weirder because I'm also doing this upgrade for library storage capacity 2, which means that now all of those libraries will store double. And remember, we have 10 libraries, which is 1,000 apiece. So this is going to really, really, really negatively affect, or weirdly affect, that rebalance, because now they're going to be making, now instead of 10,000 storage, well, we're going to be adding 10,000 storage to the 11.7 thousand we already have. So let's jump back to crafting before we do that upgrade. And I'm going to turn off the rebalance here and here, and I'll leave paper alone. It'll be fine because it's not going to make extra of that much. It might pull the logs a little bit, but it'll be okay. And then I'm going to do this. And you can see immediately they shot way down. We are drawing yellow. That's because this is actually drawing more now than it was before, because it was stuck. It was capped out before. And I think what I want to do here is try to ramp these up just a shade to get them to the point where they're green, but just barely green, and then ramp this up too. To get it to green. And maybe we could even go just a little bit further, because you can see here we're making 1.6 of these. We could go probably one more on that, and we could pull this one up to, say, about the same amount over, and a surplus of 1.6. And we can take this up to about the same. Yeah, that's good there. And we'll take this one up as well to about the same right there. And that way, well, at least the same. There's a big toggle there because they make 10, but there's a huge now balance act going on, so they're going to refill, but it's going to take them a long time. But I would rather it take them a long time rather than it being a weird this one's pulling too much and it's drawing these all down to 0. I'd rather just kind of slowly tick across. And you might have noticed also one other feature that I'm using with the automatic rebalance, and that is the overrides. Well, first of all, I'm doing a couple different things. Here, the hearths making fire from wood, I have not rebalancing. I have it at 0, so it's locked at 0, so that we don't use this to make fire at all. I could probably sell these 4 buildings, but I'm not going to do that until I finish up these different tasks down here, which keep having me add 5 more at a time to get that capacity increase each time. So some of them I've done a lot of, but most of them I've only done 10 of so far. So I need to catch all the rest of those up too. But the feature is the override. So also here in the general knowledge tomes, they make 10 general knowledge tomes out of 1 book, or 1 general knowledge tome out of 1 paper. But then if you look up here at the book recipe, 4 paper becomes 1 book. So this here is equivalent of 4 paper making 10 versus 1 paper making 1, which is why I've overridden this one, which you can do by using the plus minus buttons on the moment, or you can click the override to override. You can click the button here to override the automatic rebalance and turn it off, force it off, even though for the category it was on. We turned it off as part of this exercise, but it was on. So, because I don't want them being made out of paper, I only want them being made out of books. And the game isn't smart enough, or the rebalance tool isn't smart enough to say, well, the books are more efficient, so we're going to use the books instead of the paper at least once we get it full or anything. It'll just kind of try to balance them together, and that's not what we want. So I'm doing that in a few different places. Here in Wallyville, it's being used for the... Wait, I don't have this one on? Oh, I don't have this one on. I need to turn that one on, actually. I turned it off because I was doing the same here for their storage, which was warehouse. Yeah, and it went haywire as well off camera, which is why I saved the library to show you all on camera, so that you can avoid that if you want to, the similar way that I did. So we were looking for the other place that I did some overrides, and one of the other places I'm doing the overrides is where I'm making an item in a centralized or in a single town and shipping it out, rather than shipping the less important item, or the less efficient transport item. So in this case, sugar is 2 to 1 refined sugar. So why should I ship 2 things when I can ship 1 thing from town to town? So in that case, I've also overridden that to 0 in the other towns. The other example is cloth, but I'm making the cloth here, so they're making a lot here. And I do plan on doing that same task in other towns. I just haven't gotten around to doing it yet. I've been trying to work on those last 4 researches, which is done in 2 or maybe 3 of the towns now. As you could probably tell from this one, because we had it way up high, we have no more research available here. We will soon enough, as soon as we unlock these next 2 towns, the snow and the desert biomes. But for now, we don't have any researches left until we get some more materials in that we don't have yet. So I wanted to kind of just go around. Oh, the other thing I'm doing is I'm exporting from here 4.5 industrial tomes per second, industrial tome 3s per second, for use in other towns. Right now, they're getting exported from here, and they're getting exported from the river town at the same rate. So I have 9 per second coming into the trading system, and those are all going into the forest right now. Ooh, mine and apothecary production. Good. Market capacity and production. There we go. They're all coming in to here, and that 9 per second doesn't make a huge dent in our production here, or demand here. You can see we're actually even making more locally than we're importing. But my thought is that as each town finishes, I export that 4.5. I'll have to take this back down to 4.5, of course, but I export 4.5 from each town. Then each subsequent town will get that 4.5. Times however many towns. By the time the jungle's ready to be finished up quickly, it will have 18 coming to it, plus what it can make locally, which is going to be another, or what I'm going to have it make locally, which is another 15.68. And the reason that you're doing 15.68 is that just happens to be 10 of these, plus whatever the balance is for the rest of the chain, of course. So that's where I'm at with industrial knowledge tomes. And then once we're good here, then I'll unset this so that it can automatically rebalance itself based on what we're trading and everything else. So right now we are at 18 minutes for most of these. This one is a little wonky. I think it just got less of the books for some reason along the way. Maybe I didn't click it as soon as the other 3, but it's a little behind. So as these all finish, or maybe I starved it out of iron for a minute or something. I'm not sure what happened here. But as these finish, I'll just dedicate all 4 schools to this one. That's what I did in the water, Wally on the water. We'll do it here as well. And it'll get this one done pretty quickly. And then we can move on to focusing down the mountains. The mountains are 5 to 7 hours or so away. So much the same situation. And like I said, we'll just ship a bunch in here. We're making a few less here because the buildings aren't at the same level. This is level 40. This one is level 41, so that makes a little bit of a difference. Times 10 buildings is the difference there of 3-ish or 2.5 or whatever it is, just by the slight speed boost difference. But I did also do all of the upgrades in all these towns for the coin sell values as well, as I was kind of ramping things up. And I'll show you what that looks like in just a moment. I just wanted to kind of go through and show you one more thing with the automatic rebalance, or one more behavior, I guess, of the automatic rebalance, the ideal behavior of the automatic rebalance. So clothing store market capacity, that's fine. And I still have this fuel efficiency in this last town. We're getting there. It's just a bit of a tick, but we're getting there. We're selling the coins to get there. So the last one here, I only have at 8. And we want to make that a 10 also. So I want to upgrade this. Remember, I have this locked so that it doesn't try to rebalance this one. It's just going to rebalance everything else that it takes to make this one. So let's ramp this up to 9. You can kind of see the stuff working up the chain to balance everything out. Everything is stable, except of course for the industrial knowledge tome 3s. So we can try number 10 now. You can see it all kind of flashing and rebalancing and doing exactly what that should do. And that's exactly how it should work. It should just, I mean, if you have enough capacity in your various buildings, in this case, it's going to be the labs, of course, the study, the machinist shops, the forges, and the workshops, as well as the lumber mills too. So we had enough capacity here. We had enough capacity here. We barely have enough here in the machine shop, but we had enough in these other places to do it. Actually, we probably had a little bit extra here too. Like we could see here that you've got a little bit of wiggle room in there. You don't either. But it looks like you might. Yeah, you've got a little bit of wiggle room there too. So there's two workers. It leaves them in there. It doesn't negatively affect anything to have them assigned out like that, because they're still only producing as much as they can output. Let's see here. Gear. Right, down. Yeah, down. For example, for gears, we have the potential of producing 17.89 with the 13 people we have assigned. But in practice, we're only producing 15.4. So they're not working at 100% efficiency each worker or each position because we don't have that much demand. So it's, even though there's extra people assigned here or extra jobs assigned, or however you want to work this out in universe, it ends up working out the same whether you have that extra one assigned there or not, because once this bar is at maximum, they just can't produce that much. They kind of ramp down to 86% speed each. So that's how that works. Okay, so the other feature, which is the markets, is what I wanted to show today. So we're going to let this run, by the way. This one here has quite a few more hours to go. But as those other books are done in those other towns, then I'll be shipping them over, which will accelerate each subsequent town. So this will work out fine in the end. Let's go back to Wallyville and take a look at the market and what I've done here at the market. Each market is now selling at 130%. That's due to some of the upgrades that allow an extra 10% sell quantity. I can't remember what where that wording is or how that wording works. It's in, is it this one? That's the food market sell speed. It's one of these upgrades where it's I can't remember the wording, but it's basically like adds 10% to the ability for that building to sell or something to that effect. This one here, the oversupply of food market items by 10%. So I'm at level 3. This will go up to level 4 when I get 50 houses built and 20 food markets built, which I'm working on these two slowly. And there's one of these for each of the market buildings, and they're all at level 3 right now. They're all at the same level. I made them all the same level, and that's the 15 of each store level plus the 40 houses, I think, is what it ended up being. But anyway, so we have 130. We're selling 130% of what we need, and the people are buying that, which is ideal. We are So we are providing enough items, or making enough items locally, or importing them via the trade menu. We're importing quite a bit of base goods here right now. Like I said, I'll rebalance all of that later once we have a bit of a final decision made. But I'm working on rebalance. I've rebalanced everything in this town so that we can sell that 130% of maximum. And as we add more houses here into this town, we'll actually have to increase the amounts we're selling, and we'll have to add additional sellers for some of these items in order to make sure that they're still at that 130%. And then once we do these and get them up to the next 10%, we'll have to go through and add more sellers. But this entire town, every item in this town is at 130. At least they were. When I last looked, they could tick down due to production issues, perhaps, or rebalancing issues, and definitely due to adding more houses. So this town is the only one, I think, that I have up at the maximum. The rest of them I have at one seller each for each item. We got this done. That's good. Let's do that real quick, because that gives us some additional prospecting capacity. So I have every other town at one seller for each item, I believe. Some of them are maxed out at their current overstock percent, which in I think every other case is only 110%. But some of them aren't full yet, and that just depends on what the demand is for that item versus what one seller can sell. So you can kind of see that, like the one seller seems to be able to sell 2.58 of anything per second, but we don't need as much coal, cotton, planks, wood, and stone for the people in this town as that, so they're able to be maxed out and not even fully supplying everything. And I'm not even sure really what these percentages over here mean. In terms of, actual production speed is 1.97. Oh, that's because of the 10%. I'm not sure why it's only 101 here. I'm not sure what that percentage exactly means. But there is definitely over 100 for the ones that are over 100 here. If I try to figure this out, I might be able to figure it out, but I'm not going to spend the time on it right now. But you can see down here in these higher value items, the things in the hardware store, the things in the bookstore, they're actually at 110% because they don't need as many of those either. And even the higher value items here at the clothing store are there. All the gourmet foods, all the apothecary stuff, and the specialty goods stuff are all at 100%. So if I wanted this town to be at maximum, which I probably should now that we've done all the research here and all the upgrades are done here, I probably should flip these up to make sure they're all at 110. I just haven't done it yet. And you can see the overstock because the bar is different color, by the way. So like between the butter, which is at 101%, you see the tiny little 1% there, in that part of the bar, which is the overstock, the brighter blue or the more medium blue, whereas the sky blue is the stock percentage. So we have 100, of course, here plus the 1, whereas here we have the complete 110, which is the maximum of the overstock, and that means the whole bar is filled with this medium blue color. And it also means the difference between, I think. Oh, this is counting still as 5 points, which is also good. And we have a 92% average fulfillment in this town, which makes them, on average, happy, but they could be ecstatic, and they're not. So we're going to overstock this town as well as part of this. I think the rest of the towns look kind of the same. It just depends a little bit on how many houses there are and various things like that. But the reason that I'm selling all of these things at this level and working my way up to that full overstock is in order to earn more coins and more XP. Right now, as I mentioned at the beginning, or earlier anyway, we're waiting on Mountain and Jungle to get to level 20. And they're well on their way, but they're not there yet. They got a few million more to go each. Jungle's obviously a little behind because I started it later. But that's XP. And so in order to earn XP, you have to earn XP by selling things. So here we are selling things to earn XP. We're earning, in this town specifically, we're earning over 7,000 XP per second, which is not a small amount, but we need to earn 432 million XP to make it to level 21. We're also getting these prestige points, which I have been spending also, by the way. I can spend one more now, maybe a productivity something. But I've just been spending them on crafting speed, which means that my buildings will be a little more efficient in terms of the overall performance of them. The items are being made extra fast. You can see the difference between level 4 and level 5 there, which means that we don't need as many buildings to make the same amount of things, which also means that we can supply more workers than we were able to supply previously, more houses. So that's kind of what I'm working on for these two as well, or all the rest of these 4 towns as well. So the mountain is, you've got apothecary market capacity. That's fine. We'll turn that one in. So the towns I'm going to focus this on first is the mountains and the jungle. And the reason is because, of course, I need those to get to level 20. Everybody else is already at level 20. I just need these two to make that last level. So I'm going to max these out to at 100%, 110%. And that will get me to the, or maybe it's only 100% for this town. I might need to build more markets, which I'm going to do anyway here, because we're going to need to have more markets in order to max these things out. Because you can see, for example, the food market needs, most of its things need a second seller, but I only have 5 available sellers. So I'm going to have to add more food markets anyway. But I don't know where if that can actually affect this town. Or how that works. Oh, here it is. Yep. We just have to have the houses in the town and then the markets. So I can easily ramp this up to 10 markets, and maybe we could even do that now just to show. I held down Shift, by the way. These modifiers were added in a couple of updates ago. Shift to add 5 at a time, or 5 per click. Control to add 10 per click. Control Shift to add 50 per click, if you need that many. Okay, so we're going to do that here in the mountains. Yeah, we just got that one, and also in the jungle. And so what I think I'm gonna do that, I think, off camera. I think what I'm gonna do is I'm just gonna leave this here, and depending on how quickly I can get the mountain and the jungle up to max, there may be a bit tacked onto this episode. But I think I'm just going to save that for another episode and have them started, because a lot of the stuff in them is going to be repetitive of what we've already seen in these other towns. So I think I'm just going to wait. It might be a second episode this week. It might come kind of on an off day. These are normally coming on Wednesdays. I think last week I did Friday. But these are normally coming on Wednesdays. But I might do a Friday this week if I get that far, or something like that, just to kind of show you some of the new stuff that comes with the desert and the snow. What the heck's going on there? Oh, it's telling me how to unlock it. Okay, that works. The desert and snow. So those will come in the next episode, I think. I don't think I'll tack onto this because we're at almost 30 minutes now. So thank you all for joining me, and I will see you all next time. Bye for now.